Hi, Mayank. First of all, great thanks from my side on agreeing to do the Bharat Upskill Project Masterclass, and thank you so much for taking out time on a Sunday noon. Glad to have you here. From you, your journey has been phenomenal. I'd like to understand the idea behind UpGrad and what you were doing before starting UpGrad.
No, no, first of all, thank you very much, Shashank, for having me here. I know we have been speaking about this, and finally we are getting to do this. So I'm quite excited about coming on your podcast. I've heard a lot about that from various people, and congratulations for building a great sort of platform to talk
Thank you
to
so
your
much.
audience overall. No, so so to your question of the idea behind Upgrad, Shashank, was that look, um, just prior to Upgrad, I've always been in education. Uh, I was earlier advising companies to invest or to move into the education space, or I was investing in the education sector as a VC. So I started my career post my management program at ISB with a company called the Parthenon Group. And at the Parthenon Group, I worked and sort of advised a lot of PE, VC companies, helping them invest in the education sector. So I was there, I mean, worked across multiple regions, spent a lot of time in China, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and even Japan and Korea, etc. Just to understanding how education sector should be sort of looked at and viewed. And then that's the time, Shashank, it started feeling that, look, you're just advising and you're not doing anything after that.
Right.
So then I said, let me just take a step forward. And that's the time when I decided to join Bertelsmann in the investment arm, BII. So we're doing Series B, Series C level investments into various sort of companies and entities. So that happened a couple of sort of, I mean, after spending 4 or 5 years with Parthenon, there again, my thinking was I've come closer, but I'm not close enough with actually being in the business and doing the business. And that's why I decided to sort of launch UpGrad. So the common theme that you will see, Shashank, in both the places was that I spent a lot of time in the education sector. So I always felt that I understood education sector really well. I
Right.
always felt that I can do something in this space. So coming to your point of what was the insight coming up there, I mean, the story for why starting UpGrad is very different, which I don't want to get into. I mean, I can speak later as we go along. But the big problem there that I saw was there's a problem with quality of education, there's a problem with access to education, there's a problem with affordability of education. And then there was a fourth macro phenomenon that was happening, which was about individual skills were getting redundant very quickly. So I don't know, Chirag, when did you graduate from your undergrad or sort of?
So I graduated in 2012. So 2008 to 2012, I did my engineering.
So there were those are Bharam when you graduated. At that time, I don't think there were roles like perhaps social media manager or data
Right.
scientist, AI engineers. When I graduated, there were no roles such as that. There were no roles as digital marketer, so on and so forth. So I think देखो 20 साल में how traditional roles have reduced and new roles have emerged.
Right.
And that's the phenomena that we are seeing that look in the overall ecosystem, skills will get redundant very, very rapidly. आपका जो skill थे पहले वो अभी नहीं होंगे. And as the skills become more and more redundant, people will have to keep on continuing to upskill. And that's where the idea and thought of upgrad came in because skills were getting redundant and individuals did not have an option to go to a physical university. And that's where the journey of upgrad started. I very important, I jokingly say this, देखिए क्या होता है कि इंडिया में ना vocations were transferred from one generation to another generation. So typically, your surname would define what vocation you are from. So if the father was a farmer, son would be a farmer. Father was a lawyer, son would be a lawyer. Father was in business, son would be in business, or son or daughter out there. But I think in the last generation, if you see your parents and sort of others, the vocation changed during generations. So if your grandparents were doing something, your mom and dad perhaps were not doing the same thing, but they stuck to one job in the entire career. But in this generation, people are changing job very rapidly. So we are seeing that transition happening, and therefore something like an upgrade needs to exist. And I think to your point on what you are initiating as Bharat Upskilling Project has a relevant play because people will have to upskill on a regular, constant basis.
I got it. Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, 2012 when I graduated, there were only mass recruiters such as TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and everybody used to start their career with those kind of jobs. And slowly, gradually, when I'm looking at people graduating in 2019, 2020 onwards, they are now embarking on roles such as digital marketing manager. So आई थिंक बैक इन 2012 इट वाज नेवर हर्ड ऑफ कि आप इंजीनियरिंग के बाद डिजिटल मार्केटिंग में जा सकते हो. वो माइंडसेट था कि एमबीए तो चाहिए ही अगर मार्केटिंग करनी है तो.
Correct.
एंड नाउ पीपल आफ्टर जस्ट कंप्लीटिंग देयर इंजीनियरिंग आर आल्सो एंटरिंग इनटू मार्केटिंग रोल्स.
Correct.
So Meg, I'd like to understand that upgrad was a unique concept that you launched in 2016. So how you onboarded the initial first set of users, how you solved for the cold start problem there?
We started in 2015.
Yeah,
2015 मार्च में शुरू किया था. तो so we thought that look, our insight was the following, Shashank. क्या देखो, ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन बहुत एग्जिस्ट करता था तब भी.
right,
People were selling MOOCs was a big sort of thing at that time. MOOCs चला नहीं उतना, but that was the thing that started off. So a lot of online programs were available for free, etc. Our thesis was the following: that look, education, for it to succeed, it cannot be a content library. It
right,
has to be more a outcome led play. कि कुछ तो फायदा होना चाहिए करने के लिए. And therefore our thesis was that look, we need to have original content. So content cannot be syndicated from multiple places. आपको content खुद से बनाना पड़ेगा. Content कुछ ऐसा बने ताकि वो लगे कि it is more the HBO of today
right,
rather than Doordarshan of 1990s or 1980s. So a
right,
lot more engaging content should be there. We said that look, this content should be in a great technology platform, because if the platform is not there, engagement is not going to be there. And technology platform can actually break the problem of anonymity. अगर आप I don't know, when you went to, have you done any online program, Shashank?
Yeah, I've done from upgrad itself, data science from Triple IT Bangalore from 2018 to 2019 batch.
And उसके अलावा have you taken up other programs outside of UpGrad also?
Uh, Outside of upgrad, I have enrolled for a few programs, but those programs,
Not.
unfortunately, I was not able to complete. So it was only 30-40% completion because there
तो
was not no outcome linked to it basically.
तो जैसे आपने बाकी प्रोग्राम किया ना, होता क्या है कि जब आप अपग्रेड का, मैं बताऊंगा बाद में कि क्या थीसिस था, बट जब आपने वो ऑनलाइन प्रोग्राम एनरोल किया होगा, आप उससे निकलने में डर, मतलब आपको कोई डर नहीं है. You
हाँ,
don't have any guilt to leaving the program, but the 4 year of engineering that you did, or the upgrade program that you did, leave the upgrade program aside, but the 4 year of engineering that you did, leaving that was a big problem for you. अगर आप
right,
छोड़ के जाओगे तो your uncle, your aunt will call up your parents and say, अरे लड़का बिगड़ गया है. He does not have anything to do out here, and then उसके डर से आप छोड़ते नहीं हो.
right,
तो anonymity को सॉल्व करना टेक्नोलॉजी प्लेटफॉर्म का बहुत ज़रूरी पार्ट होता है, कि किसी को ऐसा नहीं लगे कि आप अनोनिमस हो प्रोग्राम में. अगर आप जिम जाते हो, आपने दोस्तों को बताया है और जिम से निकल गए, तो आपको बहुत दुख होता है निकलने में, बट अगर आपने किसी को बताया नहीं तो निकलना बड़ा आसान है. सो टेक्नोलॉजी प्लेटफॉर्म ऐसे सॉल्व फॉर anonymity, but Shashank, a good platform or a good content, a good technology platform is still a glorified library. आप लाइब्रेरी के लिए कोई एजुकेशन नहीं ज्वाइन करते हो, आप उसका ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन का ज्वाइन करते हो. सो देयरफॉर वी प्रोवाइडेड अ लॉट ऑफ ह्यूमन टच एंड ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन. मैं मजाक में बोलता हूँ ये कि यार, जब तक माँ मारती नहीं है ना, तब तक लोग पढ़ते नहीं है सीरियसली. जब तक कोई धक्का नहीं देता तो पढ़ाई होती नहीं है. सो एजुकेशन इज नॉट नेटफ्लिक्स एंड चिल. Education requires some sort of time commitment, etc. And that's why we started with this entire approach of education. Now coming to your specific question, तो जब कोल्ड स्टार्ट प्रॉब्लम था तो हमने ना सबसे पहले डिसाइड किया कि ऐसा प्रोग्राम लॉन्च करते हैं जहां हमें सब्जेक्ट अच्छे से पता है. तो entrepreneurship was the first topic that we chose, and then the second topic was data science, the program that you did at your level. When we chose entrepreneurship, we chose because हमें वो टॉपिक अच्छे से आता था, हम कंटेंट फटाफट बना सकते थे. So we did a lot of work on creating a great program out there. So my feedback to most people is that to ensure that you can solve a cold start problem is try to be in domains where you can see monetization and results much quickly, because you have a circle of competence. अगर आपका circle of competence data है, like in your case, like for you, content is your circle of competence.
right.
अगर आप एक प्रोग्राम कंटेंट मार्केटिंग में लॉन्च करोगे, वो जल्दी चालू होगा, जल्दी निकलेगा, versus creating something new altogether. That's how we started solving for the first bit of cold start problem.
Got it. Man, if I talk about India in general, so people are mostly reactive in nature, as rightly told by you. अब स्किलिंग के लिए लोगों को आपको पुश करना पड़ता है, बताना पड़ता है, बिकॉज मोस्टली इट्स रिलेटेड टू आउटकम. मेरी जॉब लग जाएगी क्या, मेरे को कितना हाइक मिलेगा. सो हाउ देन यू सॉल्व फॉर दीज प्रॉब्लम्स वेयर यू नो कि ग्रेटिफिकेशन विल हैपन से 1-2 year डाउन द line, but we have to make this person motivated enough to continue for at least 1-2 years so that they see end results.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point that you're making. See, education is not like Maggie that you
Right.
have 2 minute के बाद आपको टेस्ट अच्छा लगेगा. Education requires you to be constantly being there
Right.
at it for about 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. But let me just break it down एक बार शशांक. क्या देखिए, दो टाइप के एजुकेशन होते हैं. एक टाइप का एजुकेशन है विच इज फास्ट फूड, और एक टाइप का एजुकेशन विच इज फाइन डाइनिंग.
Right.
तो फास्ट फूड क्या होता है कि आपको कभी भूख लगी है, फटाफट आप जा रहे हो कहीं से, आपको कुछ चिप्स और कुछ ये बर्गर खाना है, आप फटाफट जाओगे, बर्गर उठाओगे, खा लोगे. फाइन डाइनिंग पे आप जाते हो पूरा एक्सपीरियंस के लिए कि आप बैठोगे, आपको अच्छा सा एक फर्स्ट कोर्स आएगा, सेकंड कोर्स आएगा, फिर डेजर्ट आएगा, यू विल एंजॉय द एंटायर एक्सपीरियंस. सो देयर आर टू डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट आउट हियर. फास्ट फूड इज क्विक एंड डर्टी, तो आप फटाफट करके निकल सकते हो. तो फास्ट फूड में ना लोगों को जो आउटकम चाहिए होता है वो सर्टिफिकेशन होता है. क्या मुझे पीएमपी मिल जाए, मुझे अजाइल मिल जाए, मुझे स्क्रम मास्टर का सर्टिफिकेशन मिल जाए, तो मैं फास्ट फूड ले लेता हूँ, बिकॉज तब मेरे चांसेस ऑफ गेटिंग स्टाफ ऑन अ प्रोजेक्ट इज मच हायर इन द, let's say, IT company, technology company. And then there's the other one which is fine dining, where you say that, look, I don't know, I've been just doing COBOL and sort of C++ so far. I want to move towards AI, and that is going to require a lot of hard work, and therefore I'm going to take a 6 months to 11 month program.
Right.
तो फास्ट फूड के लिए मोटिवेशन इज जस्ट इमीडिएट सर्टिफिकेशन, बहुत छोटा टाइम होता है, तो देयरफॉर यू सी लॉट ऑफ पीपल क्विकली गेट टू दिस थिंग. द प्रॉब्लम दैट यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इज इन द लॉन्ग फॉर्म प्रोग्राम. यहाँ पे ना मेरे हिसाब से दो चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सबसे पहला कि फॉर एवरी कंज्यूमर एंड फॉर एवरी कस्टमर एंड फॉर एवरी लर्नर you need to provide a buddy or
Yeah.
a mentor who will constantly call up and follow up with you to say, यार आपने इतने रुपए दिए थे, आपने पढ़ाई की कि नहीं किया, आपका एग्जाम आ रहा है, कैन आई सपोर्ट यू विद समथिंग, इज देयर समथिंग दैट आई कैन हेल्प यू विद. द मोमेंट यू हैव दैट बडी, द your ability, your the chances that you will continue ends up being higher. uh, the analogy for that is like a gym coach.
Right.
अगर अच्छा जिम कोच है तो आपको धक्का देके काम कराएगा, अगर अच्छा जिम कोच नहीं है तो आपको, आप ड्रॉप आउट कर जाओगे.
Right.
दूसरी चीज शशांक एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती है, विच इज दैट यू नीड टू हैव एन अकाउंटेबिलिटी बडी. मैं बोलता हूँ, जैसे मैं जोकिंगली बोलता हूँ कि जैसे आप आपने 10th 11th या 12th का बोर्ड जब आप कर रहे होगे, डिपेंडिंग ऑन विच एवर बैकग्राउंड यू आर इन, योर मदर विल स्टिल सिट नेक्स्ट टू यू,
Right.
and she will get up in the morning at 5 a.m. She does not know anything about what you're studying, but she will sit next to you, and she smartly has taken an accountability with you, saying, अगर मैं उठ के बैठी हुई हूँ तो तुम तो नहीं सो सकते हो.
Right.
And then you also work hard and study hard. So this accountability buddy, wherein let's say you as a professional are doing it, your wife becomes an accountability buddy, your roommate becomes an accountability buddy, your kids become an accountability buddy. Imagine a kid calling up a parent and saying, अरे आपने कोर्स लिया था, मुझे भी आपका आया है मैसेज कि आप यू आर फॉलोइंग बिहाइंड, एंड बिकॉज यू आर फॉलोइंग बिहाइंड यू आर स्ट्रगलिंग इन द कोर्स. अगर बच्चा अपने बाप को बोलेगा या बच्चा अपनी माँ को बोलता है कि यार यू आर स्ट्रगल, यू आर नॉट डूइंग हार्ड वर्क इनफ, then parents will push themselves harder. So you need a personal accountability coach in order to go through the completion, because results बहुत late आता है, इसीलिए आपको that human motivation is engine is required for you to continue and proceed longer as well.
I think very valid point, man, कि you need to have a buddy or a mentor. Otherwise, the motivation levels जब आपका इतना delayed gratification होता है, they can definitely go for a toss. I'd like to understand from you कि what does upskilling mean to you, and अभी भी अगर आप upskill करते हैं खुद को, what are certain set of things that you continue doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, upskilling, more than upskilling, I will use the word learning, because I think constantly क्या होता है कि आपका कहीं ना कहीं पे on an ongoing basis you end up, because the skills are changing very rapidly, you don't end up sort of being up to speed. I think AI is a great example, right? It has come in, everybody's getting into AI, but unless you understand the core dynamics and know the ecosystem well, you will not be able to build great products on top of that. So for me, upskilling is in some way a better word for inquisitiveness and your penchant for learning. Uh, या मुझे सीखना है, मुझे पीछे नहीं रहना है, मुझे कॉन्स्टेंटली आगे बढ़ते रहना है. एंड दैट philosophy is what I call it: upskilling, constant learning, lifelong learning, and maybe sort of being inquisitive out there. So that is what upskilling mean to me. कि यार आप हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ सोच रहे हैं, इसका मतलब क्या है, ये मुझे समझ में क्यों नहीं आ रहा है, what do I do to sort of learn this more. So I personally, Shashank, always look at what's happening in most sort of recent term. अगर तब crypto आया था, then I need to understand what is crypto and how can crypto work out. Then AI came in, I will understand how AI works, how AI can sort of engage, etc. I can solve for the inquisitiveness either by taking a course, which is a more structured way of learning. I can do it with unstructured way of learning, with going to some of the YouTube, social media platforms and learning and consuming as much content, reading a lot of books, etc. So depending on the type of learning style, you can go to an unstructured learning, which is you do whatever that comes your way, or you take up a structured course in which you can establish and then learn in the process. So I think that's how I look at upskilling, learning, sort of lifelong learning and constant sort of education out there.
Got it. Yeah, I think very rightly said. So if I am having curiosity regarding a topic, maybe first can be explore it through free platforms. And if you feel कि you can now build a domain expertise, या आपका interest आ रहा है, then you
Yeah.
can definitely go for courses and certifications. I was going through an article recently, man, that said that कि India का gross enrollment ratio जो है higher education में 28.2 है.
Yeah.
AICTE chairman said कि इसे 50% तक ले जाना है. So what are some of the things that you feel that we as a country should be doing कि ये इतने से increase हो जाए on how a bigger role say a online learning platforms such as UpGrad or others can play in this making sure कि ये ratio 50 तक जाता है.
देखिए, the overall number that you look at it, right? So about 30, 35, 40 मिलियन लोग अभी हायर एजुकेशन में पढ़ रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो हमारा ग्रॉस इनकम रेशियो, हमारे पास करीबन 15 करोड़ लोग हैं, मतलब 150 million people in that same age group that should be in higher education. But as you said, 30, 35, 40% are currently enrolled in higher education. Now to take it to 50%, which means that आपको कम से कम 15, 20, 30 million लोग additional चाहिए होंगे to come in the higher education space. And the reason why gross enrollment ratio is important, Shashank, is because कोई भी country GDP growth पे अपना number achieve नहीं कर पाई है unless their GERs have increased, the gross enrollment ratios have increased. सो चाइना को भी अगर आप देखोगे, वो भी 50% बहुत पहले निकल गई थी. US, UK, etc. are at 80% plus. So all countries, if they have to meet their 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion mark, GERs are very important, gross enrollment ratio. Now, for India to move from, let's say, current 35 million to 60 million, अगर 25 मिलियन मुझे एक्स्ट्रा कैपेसिटी चाहिए, तो आपको मोटा मोटी अगर आप देखोगे कि 25 मिलियन की जो एक्स्ट्रा कैपेसिटी है, रफली आप 2.5 करोड़ का पकड़ लो, जिसके लिए आपको एक सीट खोलने में करीबन 10 लाख रुपए लगेंगे अगर आप फिजिकली खोलते हो. 10 लाख रुपए लगेंगे, विच इन इटसेल्फ इज लाइक अबाउट गिव और टेक अबाउट 2.5 करोड़ टाइप का आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट लगेगा. हम उतना फिजिकल ब्रिक एंड वाटर में नहीं लगा सकते. We don't have the opportunity of investing that much amount of money on physical brick and mortar infrastructure. And therefore, online degrees, online learning will play an important role to cover a certain spectrum, strata of society to come into the education sort of route. अगर आपने, I don't know, when you grew up, did you have a landline phone in your house?
Yeah, I had a landline phone.
Do you have a
But
landline phone now also?
no, I don't have it right now.
And did you also use something called a pager? I don't know if you remember, pager came in between.
Page I think my father used for a while, but I never used it. Yeah.
तो देखिए, जैसे इंडिया में ना, एक तरीके से सारे घरों में लैंडलाइन फोन नहीं आ पाया था, और
Right,
अभी भी नहीं है. बट वी leapfrog the moment from being a no phone to fully phone, but we skipped the generation of landline phones.
right.
We got it for some household and then everything got skipped. I think online will play a similar role, where some strata of the society will have to skip and come to getting degrees in the online medium. So that's the philosophy I feel potentially will happen in this country, and more people who are first generation degree learner in their house. I, I, I'm assuming that my parents had a degree, so
Right.
I'm a second generation learner or third generation degree learner in the family. But maybe some cases they are first generation degree learners. For those people, online will become a very integral part of how they get into the learning philosophy.
Got it. ये completely get it, Mayank. अगर scale होनी है, then I think online will be the way forward. But if I compare this with K-12 education category, there we have seen कि online का adoption जैसे आपने बताया कि say from having fixed landline to a mobile generation वो बहुत fast हो गया. But when we talk about higher education, यहाँ पे अभी adaptation में थोड़ा time लग रहा है and convincing also needs to go. लोगों को बताना पड़ता है this is beneficial for you. So
Yeah.
why this difference between say a K-12 and a higher learning जबकि higher learning लोग और mature भी होते हैं, they should be able to take decisions much faster.
नहीं, के थ्रू 12 में क्या है ना कि के थ्रू 12 स्पेस पे ऑफलाइन एजुकेशन इज फुल्ली पेनिट्रेटेड. यू हैव ऑल यू हैव अबाउट 300 मिलियन पीपल. 30 करोड़ लोग होने चाहिए जो कि स्कूल एजुकेशन पे होने चाहिए. उस 30 करोड़ में 30 करोड़ के 30 करोड़ है स्कूल में.
Right,
तो आपके पास में अक्रॉस ऑल द 300 मिलियन, ऑल 300 मिलियन आर करंटली इन स्कूल. सो penetration of school education is really high, and therefore online again you may say that it is well accepted but utna deep gaya nahi hai. People still go to physical campuses and use online medium as a supplementary support cell.
right, right,
So I think on that supplementary support, even Indian working professionals and Indian higher education guys are using supplementary material either from some free platforms or social media platforms. They are learning something new. Doing a long form program requires a lot of education for the individual, for them to believe that यार ऑनलाइन करके भी फायदा हो सकता है. बिकॉज देखिए, इससे पहले डिस्टेंस था हमारे
हाँ,
देश में, और
हाँ,
डिस्टेंस
इग्नू,
हैजंट डन अ ग्रेट जॉब ऑफ
हम्म,
कीपिंग. या सॉरी, गो अहेड.
नहीं was telling कि इग्नू was there मतलब काफी टाइम से distance education.
Normal institution and one of the most like they have built something at massive scale.
Right,
But उसमें क्या हो गया कि people started treating distance as inferior and the
mm,
quality is not very good. And
okay,
therefore, one big challenge when online comes up is that people start thinking that क्या ये डिस्टेंस की तरह ही होगा, और
right,
अगर डिस्टेंस की तरह होगा तो मुझे क्या फायदा मिलेगा इससे.
mhm,
Now that's the place where education is needed for us to get people to understand that देखो ऑनलाइन से भी आपको सेम डिग्री मिलती है, सेम आउटकम मिलता है. ऑफ कोर्स इट इज, देयर विल बी सम प्रोज एंड सम कॉन्स ऑफ ऑनलाइन वर्सेस ऑफलाइन. आई एम नॉट
right,
डिनाइंग दैट. हो सकता है कि ऑफलाइन में यू गेट मोर discipline etc, but for a lot of people it does not. They don't have an option to go to offline. They
right,
have to go to online, and therefore for those people this becomes a very critical part. So I think there are two broad reasons. One is the prior preconceived notion that distance is not good. And the second thing is that so far the acceptability of online education by recruiter is still getting adopted. But I feel, Shashank, that we are at a place where it will get accepted, it will get adopted, it will be sort of there for people to use and develop things and look at online as a very credible medium going forward.
got it. Yeah, I completely echo that sentiment कि जो growing middle class है इसको अगर upskill करना पड़ेगा, I think कि they are not in a position to leave their job, वो opportunity loss बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाता है, so they need something affordable to at least invest time and then get some outcomes out of it. Mayank, I like to touch base on one thing more. So you have started businesses from scratch. UpGrad is one phenomenal example. So what are some of the challenges that you faced in your 0 to 1 journey, and were there any near that experiences as well जो आपने witness किए during this journey?
Luckily, in the near-death experience, not much, because I think we started with a fair bit of backing and support and everything else, so on and so forth. But if you ask me what are the big challenges in the early days, which I think without fail is perhaps one of the biggest challenge, um, is I think how do you get the right sort of team?
Right,
Uh, when you are building something new, because you're new, good people won't come to you, and you have to
right,
sort of create a strong case. If you're building something in a new industry, it gets even tougher
right,
because people don't understand the industry and therefore they need to form a view of the industry, then form a view on you. But getting the first set of smart people is very, very critical
right,
in the overall sort of building block of how you want to scale and build something out. And therefore, for me, one big challenge had been team. And one of the feedback that I give to all the new entrepreneurs is that spend a lot of time in team. Don't get yourself shortchanged. And I think on team building, Shashank, one critical part is we all think that team building is about getting people with like the similar mindset and sort of जो जिनसे हमारी जब बनती है या जमती है, because I can have a conversation, but I think you need to build a team which is extremely diverse in nature, because there are certain things that you as a founder will not be good at,
Right.
and therefore you need to know your weaknesses and then hire people who are good at that particular aspect which you are weak in. So you have to be very honest as a founder that what you're not good at, because founders sometimes find it very difficult to commit and say that I'm not good at these things. जब आप वो बोलोगे तब आप अपने टीम को cover up कर सकते हो. I think team is one first such thing. I think the second thing is, which I can tell now in hindsight, is that when people say it's a product market fit, um, I think it's a very misleading statement, because I personally believe that there's no such thing as product market fit. I think product market fit is a constant evolution. You always make your product better and you always make your product improve, and you have to constantly improve it. And it's not that एक बार product बन गया तो ये product market fit हो गया. अगर आप
Right.
Apple को भी देखोगे, iPhone तो वो हर महीने महीने हर साल साल रिलीज करता है.
Right.
So not that they don't have product market fit, they constantly have to evolve the product because the choices and the audience customers feedback is changing. Having said that, I think one critical thing that in India for people to succeed, they need to understand it's not a product market fit, but it is a product market एंड चैनल फिट.
Right.
दैट आप किस चैनल से उनको रीच आउट कर रहे हो. आप जो कर रहे हो अभी यूट्यूब में एंड वेरियस प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे एंड यू आर बिल्डिंग योर ओन सॉर्ट ऑफ ऑडियंस, दीज आर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स. इट्स नॉट एन दिस अ यूनिक proprietary channel that you're developing.
Right.
Sometimes people keep channel as the last category to solve, and by that time they have grown very rapidly relying on digital channels, which becomes less and less effective as you start scaling,
Right.
and you have not focused on channel. So people focus a lot on product, they don't focus a lot on channel. So I think channel distribution is very critical part starting from day zero and the early part of the journey. So I think these two things I definitely feel are important if somebody's starting something right up front in their career.
Mhm. Got it. I think most of the founders, Mac, have also realized that. So we see a lot of founders now using their own personal brand or building their own personal brand to drive the channel growth for their own particular startup or product. One thing I like to touch base on कि जब आप interview करते हैं as an interviewer, what are certain set of things that you look for in a candidate, and what are type of candidates that definitely stand out in front of you when you are there in the interview room?
Yeah, I look for three, four things. So one for me is, yeah, or let me put it simply. So I first look for, is the person really smart um, uh, and intelligent, and that does not mean that they should be able to do complicated math or something. They should have a very thoughtful first principle way of thinking and be very logical in the thinking process, etc. So I don't need Einstein like genius, but they should just be smart, intelligent, to have a conversation in the overall scheme of things. The second thing for me is that the person should have a very high level of drive, a very high level of attitude to make things happen. ये थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेट होता है, बट लेट मी एक्सप्लेन यू दिस थिंग दैट लुक, अगर आप में ना वो अगर आपके पास में मान लीजिए वो लेवल ऑफ पुश नहीं है, अगर वो आप उतना स्ट्रांगली कोई चीज पे आप फोकस करके धक्का नहीं दे पाते हो,
Right.
इफ यू डोंट हैव दैट कीड़ा इन गेटिंग द थिंग डन, many a times, even if you are very smart and very intelligent, you don't end up succeeding in the process. So I look for traits where outside of their work, outside of their studies, outside of their thing, are they really passionate about one or two things? It could be anything. It could be riding a bike, it could be running, it could be marathons, it could be mountain climbing, it could be listening to music, it could be playing football or watching football. But are you really passionate about something beyond what you're doing? And I find that trait very important for me to decipher whether the person has got that attitude and the passion and the rigor to be at it more than anything else. And I think the third one for me is, there'll be very good days and bad days, when we'll shout and fight, etc. But I would like the person to be somebody that I can have fun with. And when I say fun, I don't mean hasi mazak, but I can, even after a tough conversation, I can still go out with the person, have a cup of coffee,
Right.
have a beer, and then come back and be and resolve the issues. Because if the person does not sort of gel well, I think these three things matter to me. Outside of that, I usually, for the early part of the team member, I look for people who are extremely uh, entrepreneurial in nature. So I think all these three things of intelligent, high level of passion and drive, and being fun to work with is what an entrepreneurial environment is. But I think these three things plus being entrepreneurial is what I look for right now.
Yeah, I think I get it. So growth mindset should definitely be there if you want to be part of the team. And Mank, one question that audience also keeps on asking continuously: does the tag also plays a very important role, maybe coming from IIT or IIM for you, or it's the skills that matter the most, and tag takes a back seat in that case?
See, tag का मैं क्या मतलब I will say the following thing. I can say नहीं, it does not matter, but there's a fair bit of see what happens is that tag is like a entry barrier for one to have a conversation.
Right.
So अगर आपने मेहनत करके if you have been to a certain place and you have put in a lot of effort to get to that place, that means that at least one level of uh,
Filtering is done. Yeah.
filtering has happened. So
Right.
from that context, tag matters. But once you are on the interview table, at that point of time, tag does not matter. I've not had any conversation with a recruiting manager where I've said, यार ये दोनों का बात तो हुई, इस बंदे का ना 19-20 है, मगर इस ये ना ये एक one of the double I से है और इससे है उससे है, therefore let's take that person. That has never happened with me.
Got
Uh,
it.
After they are on the table, it matters as to what they have done and how they have done and how they have executed on the thing. But maybe tag matters to get on the table and sit on the table, because beyond that you can then run through this um, um, and then manage it much better overall.
Yeah. I think बैंक after a point also अगर आप experience gain कर लो, in my understanding, for 2 to 3 years, and you're coming after having some work experience, then your work generally matters the most, maybe in front of all the employers or interviewers, क्योंकि फिर वो tag initially cold start problem solve करता है, but I think it doesn't solve problem.
You're right. I think that's the right way of putting it. It's a cold start problem that it solves. At least you get your seat on the table.
Right.
Once you have a seat on the table, then after that, whatever that you have done is what matters.
Got it. Mayank, a lot of women professionals also follow the page, and one thing that they generally dapple with is understanding that how to upskill themselves in this particular job market. So, what are your tips and suggestions for women professionals, especially if somebody is on, say, a maternity break or a career break and coming out, and they want to join the mainstream? What are certain things that they can do differently?
Yeah, I think, look, one of the things that we should be very clear that women inherently have certain disadvantage
Right.
because of the way the social structure is. Look, I mean, when they're getting married, maybe the husband choice of work takes preference over wife's choice of work, etc. So I think all those things are there when kids come in. That there's maternity break. I think paternity break in India is still not as prevalent and as sort of common out there. So there are times when certain period of the most productive career era are the time when they're sitting out of the game field and the playing field, and therefore coming back ends up getting much tougher because some people may take a break for 3 months, 6 months. Some people may take a break for 1 year, 2 years. Some I've seen are taking a break of 5 to 10 years. So if
Right.
the kid is about 10 years old, then only should I move back. Then look, I think in that process, my it's very difficult for me to resolve like all the societal issues and challenges. But what I could recommend is that uh, even when you're taking a break, be involved with the industries and the business
Right.
in some way or other. If you
Mm.
can do a little bit of freelancing work, please take that up. If you can pick up something on the side, even if you're writing, even if you're contributing with your own sort of maybe podcast or journal or writing some articles and documents, etc. Because you being in touch demonstrates your willingness and your penchant to be back at work. I think that's the first one I would sort of put across. And the second thing that I would recommend, see, देखो, if you are, let's say, being in touch, मान लो somebody's on a break and she said, look, while I was on a break, I have always read up all the annual reports.
Right.
companies coming from this area. These are important things and therefore it will matter. But it is not a very clear signal that you can demonstrate. You can't go to a recruiter and say, देखिए मैंने इतने सारे
Yeah,
annual पढ़े हैं. And therefore, taking up some kind of an upskilling or a reskilling program or a certification program, maybe a 6 months to a year before you're looking at coming back to the workforce, is an important thing for them to consider. Because if they can sort of keep that ready, you will see something meaningful coming out of the overall uh, opportunities that come their way. See, because at the end of the day, that becomes a signaling factor. कोई बोलेगा कि अच्छा
yeah,
इन्होंने देखिए 80 घंटा महीने का खर्च करके she has learned this topic. That's a good signaling parameter for somebody to say that she's really serious about coming back to work. She's not just joking and she's not just sort of coming in because they want to come back into the work, but they have put in a lot of effort. So I think that bit is what I would say is important for somebody from, I mean, a woman coming back to work after taking a break.
yeah. I think very rightly said, man. क्योंकि अगर आप प्रोग्राम में enroll करते हो, then also you will have some batchmates. So networking play will also come into picture, where
Yeah.
you can build your network, and then that network you can further tap onto. On the networking piece, I'd like to understand how you look at networking. What role has it played in your career journey? And are there any mentors or people whom you credit your success for? कि इनसे network हुआ, those are the people who mentored me and helped me in my career journey. Hmm.
Yeah, no, so I think well, networking is a very broad term. I think I the way I would put this across is that yeah, देखिए, um, how do I put it? You need to you need to expose yourself to various accidents. I would put
Yeah,
it this way, that look, you cannot be always playing safe, and unless you expose yourself to accidents, sometimes good things happen to you because you are exposed yourself to accidents.
yeah,
So in my life, a lot of things have happened because I've gone to places and met people, etc., which was not planned but just happened by accident. And when something happened by accidents, I've usually not been shy away. I've never shied away from actually experiencing something which is not in my comfort zone. So
right.
my first feedback to everybody is that meet as many people as you can, because sometimes something comes to you sheerly by accidents and not by plan and purpose. Um, so um, um, that's my first takeaway. That look, expose yourself to accidents and not just sort of sit in your comfort zone in the process. For me, networking has got, I mean, definitely with people that I've met and people that I've engaged, have played a very important role in my career. I think my meeting with Ronnie was completely by chance,
Yeah.
was because somebody introduced me to him, and that's how we sort of came together and became co-founders to launch UpGrad. But once it happens by accident, Shashank, then you need to take the bull by the horn and then run with it and make it a success over a period of time and not just be that okay ho gaya. So
Yeah.
uh, I think networking with people is important. Sometimes people say that you should do a diverse networking कि थोड़ा marketing से भी मिलो, थोड़ा crypto से भी मिलो, थोड़ा AI से भी मिलो, थोड़ा उससे भी मिलो. uh, I was slightly counter view. I feel that the more deep you go in the domain that you want to excel, it's better, because over a period of time you find that connections and are able to sort of get maximum value out of the networking versus trying to meet with too many different types of people and too many different types of sort of stakeholder. So I think these two things is what I would like to sort of leave you on networking, that it does play an important role. It has played an important role for me. I feel it should not be as diverse as people say it should be. It should be slightly more homogeneous and more deeper and more stronger connects. And it should also be something that we should be able to get to a situation where you're putting yourself out of comfort zone and not just be in the comfort zone of what you're doing. The last point I will mention, this is important, and people say, look, it's a very common saying that you are the average of the five people that you hang out
Yes.
with and meet. So I think networking from that context also allows you to meet with people that you otherwise may not have sort of thought about meeting, and may expand your horizon and exposure into looking at things very differently.
Yes. I think very rightly said, man. क्योंकि what I personally feel is that one thing that people miss out if they want to network with someone कि आपको भी कुछ टेबल पे लेके जाना चाहिए. So there should be some unique value proposition from your end too. So it
Yeah,
can't be a one-way conversation where you go and engage and learn everything from the other person. Until unless you are putting your best foot out there, it becomes very difficult for other person to engage with you maybe for a second or a third time.
yeah,
Uh, I think one thing I'd like to learn from you is how was your first interview experience when you gave your first interview? How was the whole experience? जब आपकी पहली job पे आप गए थे?
yeah. I had a very strange interview experience. So this was on campus, and when you are in campus, like these are not some. And look, it was at a time when people were not preparing a lot for campus interviews.
Right.
So अगर आपका लिस्ट में नाम आ गया तो you go and you take an interview. So I had a funny incident before the interview. So I landed up for the interview, and one more person got the interview call. So the two of us sort of landed up there. The other friend did not have a shirt or something. So he said, "Look, let's do this thing. You take my shirt and you wear this shirt, and then you go for the interview. Then you come back. Then I will wear my shirt, and then I'll quickly sort of go in." And that time we did not know how to tie a tie uh,
Oh,
properly. So it was like a little shabbily managed interview. Um, but I think the interview, the first one that I cracked and I gave, which was with Larsen and Tubro and then Tata Group. I think those are the two sort of large ones that I gave. I think both the interviews I realized were not focused a lot on my technical skills and what I've learned and what I've sort of done earlier, but both of them focused a lot on my first principle problem solving skills. I think one of the interviews I was asked that, look, you have to come with whatever, some of the CEOs to come to visit a city and you have forgotten your wallet. How will you go about managing the situation? So it was completely a sort of open-ended question that was thrown at me. And in the second interview, somebody asked me that which is a role model that you look up to, and I never thought of a role model. But I think my answer there was within my family. I think my grandparents, my father, my mother is something that I really look up to because I mean the way places that they have come to. I think that answer also connected with the interviewer. So sometimes the point I would make is that these interviews to get sometimes you get thrown a curveball or you get thrown an in
right.
swing or an outswinger, and you need to be ready to play that in swing and outswinger because it's not perhaps a very anticipated question that makes you stand out. It is the unanticipated one that sort of get you to stand out in the overall sort of interview process and recruitment process.
Mm. Yeah, I think very rightly said. So I was discussing this with my mentor here at Google. He told me that when I take interviews, people are always ready for all sort of questions. And when you ask very basic question, why you, why this role, that is the question when they falter the most because they are not prepared for that curveball coming. So they don't have generally that question ready. And that is the one question that makes all the difference.
I said I usually ask this one question that what is that one thing that you have learned from your mother that has helped you be who you are today as a professional? And this is my one question, which sometimes people take it. I mean, they don't realize that it's an important question. And I think I've seen all sorts of reaction. People have come up and answered it very correctly. Some people have cried on that question because it's a. I mean, while mothers have played a very important role, people have never appreciated what sort of they have added to the overall scheme of things. So I think it sometimes have given me very extreme reaction, but I've seen people who actually take that up and take it in a very positive light have really done well in not just in the interview but in careers beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's a very deep question. Maybe I'll add it in my list of questions that I tend to ask during Google interviews.
Yeah,
I'll move to the last question, then I'll ask some questions that audience has. So, how much role do you see AI playing in 2025? And there is a lot of chatter around it taking up jobs or maybe it helping becoming people more efficient. What's your take on it?
second, I'm 100% on the latter part that it will help people become more efficient. I don't think it is going to take away job, but definitely the person who knows AI will take away your job. So
Right,
if you don't know AI as an individual, you will not be able to project, present, and establish yourself as a strong candidate. And
right,
therefore, AI is a very, very important thing that all of us, whether we are in sales or in marketing or in IT or in tech or in product, any other sort of field, I think AI is something that one should sort of try to get a good exposure of. I feel AI, Shashank, is a moment like Excel of the
Right.
previous era or MS Office of previous era. If you don't know it, you will not be able to work and succeed well in the workplace. And therefore, understanding what are the tools. I don't want everybody to understand the algorithm behind AI. I don't
Right.
want everybody to understand that what are the transformer models, how do they work, and what do they sort of achieve in the process. But knowing uh, at a leadership level, I would recommend everybody to have a mindset of AI. They
Right.
should understand mindset aspect of AI. क्या कैसे मुझे AI के द्वारा सोचना चाहिए versus सोचने के बाद AI के बारे में सोचूं. At the mid level, I feel people should understand application of AI in the day-to-day context.
Right.
कि यार मैं कैसे AI यूज करके प्रोसेस को improve कर सकता हूँ, मैं कैसे AI यूज करके systems को better कर सकता हूँ. And at the frontline level, you need to know you have to use the tools in
Right.
AI. Can I use a chat GPT? Can I use a copilot? Can I use basic sort of Gen AI tools that are coming on play? So I call it a framework of MAT, which is mindset, application, and tools. At different stages, you may use. You need to have the mindset. You don't need to know the application. You just need
Right.
to have the mindset. That's at leadership level, application at the mid management level, and then tools at the absolute sort of frontline level. I think those are the thought process that people have, but not don't run away from it because it is complicated. It is actually not complicated. It is something that people need to know. Like you learned Excel, like you learned calculator, like you learned work, PPT, presentation, etc. You will have to learn to use AI in your day-to-day workforce.
Thank you so much for that answer, Mayank. I'll ask some audience questions that I had. So this question is from Aryan Nair, who is a data science and machine learning AI expert. So he's asking, how do you think AI and ML are transforming the teaching industry, and what are new trends that these technologies might be creating for teachers specifically?
No, good question. I think teaching is one of the sectors that first will get disrupted. So I'll give
Right.
you where I'll not use the word disrupted, but will definitely get impacted. देखिए होता क्या है कि टीचिंग में ना there are I talk to you and I talk to you as a teacher, uh,
Right.
and then I ask a question which is open ended. Okay, now let me just explain you what is regression. So I will tell you regression is this y is equal to fx, and then you can figure out something in regression. Then I will ask you, okay, Shashank, tell me what you think of regression. And then Shashank will give me an answer. Mayank, what do you think of how do you solve for regression? So now that questioning in a classroom of 40, 50, you can ask maybe 3, 4 questions to 3, 4 different individuals, which the
Right.
remaining 40 will listen and learn. But ideally, in the best learning environment, you should ask the question one-on-one question to everybody. कि
Right.
तुम भी बताओ, तुम भी बताओ, तुम भी बताओ.
Hmm.
Now that humanly is not possible because the human bandwidth is limited.
Hmm.
Now with AI, at least with the agentic forces, etc., you can actually create one-on-one questioning, get the answer, train the model to give them the feedback, where people can get actually constant approach. So I say that tomorrow's learning platforms will be built with an AI first pedagogy and not with a digital first pedagogy. And there's a difference in the two, that I will teach you with content, with videos, with live, with recorded, with everything else, but then I will get you a constant coach who will help you prepare. So I think that's one bit that will change. Interviews, as you said, Shashank, can be completely automated, where you
Right.
can practice as many interviews with any kind of recruiter, and you will get exposures better. But having said that, while the teaching will be evolved and changed, you still need teachers for the subject matter expertise of how teaching happens really, how
Right.
learning happens, what are the pedagogical elements, what are the various interventions that you need to have. Um, when do you use a formative assessment? When do you use a summative assessment? When do you bring a certain type of intervention versus not? So I think these things are a constant work in progress where you require the teacher, but execution of whole lot of things, AI, machine learning can be used to build in a lot more one-on-one touch, which otherwise get missed out in a large class.
Yeah, I think a lot of startups are also looking at building AI agents, man, who can be your facilitator, or there are teaching assistants, so that role can be taken up by them where they can have those conversations with you. I'll move to the next question. This is from Trishla Gautam. She is telling that she wants to transition into data science after some years of banking. So she's asking that should she do an internship after doing a course, or directly after course she can start exploring opportunities. What makes
No, so
most sense?
so my recommendation would be, Shashank, for these situations, let's say if you're not from the domain of data science, AI, machine learning, then don't try to get into it full hog immediately. So as you're doing a course in the current role, you mentioned Trishla, right?
Yeah, Trisha.
Trishla.
Trishla Gautam.
So Trisha, you should essentially focus on taking up a small POC within your own organization. Pick up a chota POC, do something within your own core work. Uh,
Yeah,
see, data science AI it's a horizontal. It's not a vertical. Like it is having an impact in banking. It will have an impact in finance. It will have an impact in marketing. It will have an impact in sales. So
right,
within your role, find a proof of concept, develop some solutions, and try to deploy them. Because once you have that, then you can go out and tell somebody that that's your internship in some,
right,
because you don't have to leave your job and get an internship done. But in your existing job, talk to your boss, talk to your superior, talk to your reporting manager, and say, "Yeah, मुझे एक छोटा सा project करने दो." In the course or the certification that you're doing, you can talk to your mentor and
right,
ask them कि मैं किस type का course करना और किस type का certification और किस type का project कर सकती हूँ in the context of banking. And basis that, do that, demonstrate that, put that up in your CV. That's a better
right.
proof point than doing anything else.
Right, right. Thank you so much for the answer, Mayank. I think there are two more questions. One is from Rekta Jain. She is a business intelligence developer. So she's telling that what are the career opportunities or some of the tips that you will recommend for women who are on career break. I think this a lot of it you touched in your answer. Are there any is more specifics that you'd
No,
like
I
to
think I
add?
would just recommend, see, BI in itself is a very large field. So I think the good that, I mean, you are not from a field which is not in demand. It's absolutely in demand, so it should not have an impact when you're coming back to work. But I would recommend that um, do some freelancing work while you're on a break. Outside of freelancing work, my recommendation would be take up one or two certification programs just to get up to speed with what's happening here today.
Right,
The BI tools are changing rapidly, so you just need to maybe pick up one or two tools and be ready for that. But definitely sort of try to do something more relevant and current rather than keeping it a more um, in the past situation. So freelancing, some projects, and maybe one or two latest tools, upskilling overall.
got it. I'll move to the last question. This is from Anubhuti Kumar Sethi. She's an automation tester. She's asking that given the increasing adoption of AI in automation testing in tech industry, what steps can platforms such as yours take to actively upskill women in technical roles so that the roles don't become redundant because of this rapid evolution? Because they are
I think
anticipating that testing as a field will be impacted.
Yeah, so Anubhuti, I think testing definitely one of the field that will get impacted. I mean, you're anyway seeing that people were doing earlier manual testing, then moved on to automated testing, and now with RPAs and everything coming in, you will see a lot many more work will get automated.
Right.
Having said that, अगर आपको इसी field में रहना है, so I think number one question that you should ask is whether you want to be in the same field or you want to look at something else. If you want to be in the same field, then there is enough scope for you to build solutions that will do automated testings and solve for the problem. So moving towards RPA, moving towards um, uh, building those tools and building those solutions would be the right way for you to go and proceed. And maybe trying to take up one or two POCs, as I said earlier as well, to prove that you can do it beyond just in testing could enable you to be more sort of diversified beyond just what you're doing right now.
Got it. I think that's a great answer. I'll pass on the information to them. I'll just ask one last question. What's in store for you, Mang, for next 1 to 2 years, and what are you most excited about?
No, look, I think I'm very excited about skilling, upskilling. And I think what you're doing, Shashank, is very dear and very close to my heart because I think we are in an era where if you're not investing in yourself, you will get redundant. So that
Right,
definitely is something that I'm passionate about. I'm also very passionate about at this point of time. Again, for the next 2 3 years, it will continue that how AI is going to impact learning, teaching, and the entire sort of gambit of skilling and upskilling. So I think that again is something that I'm keenly watching and observing as to how that ecosystem will evolve. And I think in parallel, I feel that a lot of work I've done so far has been in the more white collar space,
right,
which is like data science, AI, machine learning. I also feel that I would love to do something more for the blue and the gray collar space. So I want to dedicate a large portion of my time and energy into developing strong solutions and strong outcomes in the space of blue and white collar ecosystem, and enabling people to get the right sort of outcome in that field as well, because that field sometimes gets missed out. And a lot of conversation ends up happening in a more white collar and technology and IT services kind of background. So I think these three things is something that I definitely would be watching and spending a lot more time in the coming year or two.
Yeah, I think you have a great mission at hand. Wishing you Godspeed with your mission, and thank you so much for taking out time, man.
Thanks, Shashank. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks a
Thank
lot.